I'm not married yet, but if I think about the things that are genuinely important in a marriage and in a relationship, and just that everyday stuff, spending times together, going through the ups and downs, taking the L's, getting the wins together, all that stuff. I mean, that's kind of what it is. All this stuff of, fancy this and, the just all the song and dance, the whole Disney kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, cool. Like people do all that stuff.
Yeah.
But then I think in the Western society in particular, and not even just Western, honestly, like globally, because of the kind of commercialization of a lot of it, there's so much focus on the wedding, but not the marriage.
Totally.
Just in what I see in many people's relationships, it's all this one day of like pomp and grandeur and spending tens or hundreds of thousands. And then it's like, okay, well, what about the rest of it? And people aren't thinking that. I mean, if you're spending only 2 hours a day with a person, I'm like, that explains a lot of the other marriage statistics to me.
Yeah.
I'm like, 2 hours, that's nothing. And I get that people's lives are structured in such a way, this person's got a day job, that person's got a day job, and they're apart for so long. But it's, even though that's normal, when you really think about it, it's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
That you're spending what you spend 10 hours at work or on your way to work in some office, say, and your spouse is also doing the same. You're over there, they're over there. You're literally spending more time with your coworkers and with your boss and whatever than you are with the person you're married to. And then you get home and you're tired, and maybe and maybe people fight, and they just you know what I mean, because they're stressed out from the work. And I'm like, that's, as an entrepreneur myself, even though I'm not married yet, but I like to talk to people who are and learn from them, because so much of what I'm doing now and the way I'm trying to position things is to think towards that future of being married and having a family and everything. And I don't want to be a husband and a father who's not there because I'm forced to be kind of going into something. So I'm like, let me set stuff up now so that I will have that flexibility. Yeah, sometimes, I might have to go on a trip, I might have to travel there or whatever, but I want it to be on my accord. I don't want it to be because, I have to do this or I have to do that, and I have to be away from my kids, I have to be away from my wife. So I think the way that that's worked out, even though it sounds unorthodox to people, right? Even the running a business together. A lot of people are told, don't run a business together with your spouse or whatever. Although I've actually heard that is the opposite of what is correct. I've actually heard that couples who do run businesses together,
if you make $1 together in a business, you have a 90% likelihood of not getting divorced.
Is that an actual statistic?
Divorce rates among people. Divorce rates among people who have made $1 together in business together is 10%.
That's incredible. That's incredible. What's that from? Do you know the source of it?
It's definitely Googleable.
I would love to repeat. I want this stat. I want this stat, especially when I'm hearing all these other ones.
100%.
That's powerful. Let me ask, because a lot of young men do listen to you. I'm sure you've been asked, we do live in a time and an era and in a place where there's a lot of new challenges for young men and women out there. There's a lot of challenges. A lot of men both men and women, I think, are operating from a position of fear in many cases, right? Literally fear of the opposite sex, but also fear of marriage, fear of commitment, fear of having kids, fear of doing this, fear of doing that, fear of judgment. What's the best way to phrase this? Let's be specific. For a young man who is out there, who is looking for a relationship, a wife, someone to spend their life with and to create their future with, what type of advice would you give to that man, whether he's in his 20s, he's in his 30s, whatever, but he's aware of all the madness going on in the world, he's concerned about this, concerned about that, doesn't really know his position when it comes to the wife part in particular? What would you suggest to that man? Because I saw you did a post on Twitter about this recently. So I'd love for you to expand on it.
So 3 things. One is check your stats. And so what I mean by that is, if this person came into your life, what happened to your stats? Did you get in better shape or worse shape? Did you start making more money or less money? Is this person trying to take you from the things that you want to do, or is it trying to encourage you to do the things that you want to do? That's number one. Like all my stats had to go up. Like that coach that I was talking about, I was debating whether I should, stay with, at that point I was to stay with Layla, because it was during that break where she was going to come back, and he was like, check your stats. And when I thought about it, I was like, well, shoot, she's in shape and she works out and she eats well. And so I've been doing better about that. And, she doesn't drink like I drink, so that's probably good. She I'm making more money than I did before. So like all these things, I was like, well, yeah, I mean, I guess my stats have gone up. And that was actually, as silly as that sounds, that was like a huge point for me. And then we got back together. The second one is you want somebody, in my opinion, who believes in you, who believes in your dreams even more than you do. Because I'm a big believer that you should only listen to somebody or take advice from people who have bigger dreams for your life than you do. Mm. And I think most people don't have bigger dreams for you, which just means that for me, like their advice is invalid. And so you want someone who really believes. And I think that Layla always believed. Really, when there was, when it was definitely faith, there was not a lot of evidence. You know what I mean? Like she believed. And I think that like in the dark times that you will inevitably have in life, like having someone who believes in you is just everything. Mm-hmm. It can be everything. The third one, I had it in my head and then I lost it. It was what I said in the tweet. I'm trying to remember what it was.
Yeah. So you've got check your stats.
Yeah.
Have someone who believes in you even more than you do.
And the last one is, so the Bible talks about this, and I wanted to just get any ancient wisdom around getting married. And right after Layla and I got married, we went through all the divorce stuff so that we could understand why people get divorced. And so we went through all of these marriage retreats that are meant for like crisis marriages.
You went to them? You attended them?
We went through like the materials. We bought the workbooks and watched the seminars.
Gotcha.
And it was super helpful for us. There was a great one. It's a Christian thing, even if you're not faith-based. I'm not. It was called Love and Respect. And it was basically talking about how like men have different needs than women do. Men need respect, women tend to need love. And so talking like in those terms was really helpful for us. And I think in a lot of ways, just validated how we had set up our relationship. But the only line in the Bible about picking a mate, not being married, there's tons of stuff on being married, but only one on picking. And it was pick someone you go to war with. Mm. And when I think about that was, I'd thought about it before we did get married, and like she was somebody who had gone through war with me. You know what I mean? And when she went to Hawaii, which is when we did that launch, when we split up, right, or went on a break, whatever. Mm-hmm. When she did that, think about it from her perspective for a second. So she met this guy on the internet. 4 weeks later, he flashes some money. She quits her job, which she had a good career. Starts flying around the country. As soon as she starts flying around the country, meets a partner, she disagrees with it, opens up more businesses. I thought I quit to do this thing with you, but now you're doing lots of things. Then says, I don't think I want to do this anymore. And then at that point, when you're living in a motel with this dude who says he doesn't want to be with you, you then fly to Hawaii and still make him money. Mm. And so like when my world was crumbling at that point, like Layla stood tall and she crushed it. Like she didn't just like do okay. She broke and set the record to this day for a single launch location. Mm-hmm. And so like, to me, when she came back and I had some space, I'd finished this partnership, I'd cleaned up some of my personal space. It was like when the chips were down, and not everyone can be that lucky where you get to like see someone go test, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That kind of thing. It's kind of like you can say you're loyal, but until you have the opportunity to cheat, you aren't anything.
Yes.
Like you need evidence to claim the trait. Mm-hmm. And so like Layla's tough as nails. And so when she did that and came back, and that was all the money that I needed to like try yet again and then fail.
Only temporarily.
Yeah, right. For my next temporary success leading only to failure. That was just like she was somebody that I would go to war with. And the last thing that I'll add to this is, again, I want to put the big giant disclaimer here, which is like, this is just what worked for us. Do whatever you want. There are no shoulds. Live your life. You don't have to get married. I believe, like, I'm not even like pro marriage. I'm just pro my marriage. Like I see most marriages, I'm like, I wouldn't want that. You know what I mean? So I, as an institution, not the biggest fan. We talked about what it would look like for us to split up. What would we do about the business? And we both agreed. And even to this day, nothing would really change. I would just live somewhere else and we'd still do business together because we enjoy doing business together. And so I get questions from guys who are like, how do I get my girl to like whatever? And I'm like, you're not. She always liked it. You're not going to change the person. And so one of the things that I loved about Layla was that up front, she said, I'm never going to try and change you. And to me, that was very freeing because like, I'm weird in my own ways, you know what I mean? And almost like that little microcosm of that story with the proposal.
Yeah.
And mind you, lovely family, lovely people, awesome. But it was just pure acceptance. And so I think that like if you can find somebody who just accepts you, like truly, isn't like, hey, you should dress this way, or hey, you should cut your hair like this, or hey, like because like there's big implications in that statement. It's, I don't care what you want for you. I want you to look like this for me. Now, you could make the argument, well, I'm the one who looks at you all day and you want me to be attracted to you, et cetera. But like, in my opinion, again, one man's 2 cents, is that you should be attracted, should is a strong word, is that I think it works better if you are attracted to that person's natural state. Because if the way they act, the way they dress, the way they are is someone that you are attracted to, then I think that's the game. I think you've won. And so I'm a big believer in, Layla and I call it loving logically, which is counter to all the Hollywood stuff. But like we talked about, like, okay, well, what happens if we get divorced? What happens with the business? How are we going to do that? And I was like, we're just going to keep running. It's like, okay, cool. Layla and I have had one argument, and it wasn't like a screamer match. It was just like, she really didn't want me to do this business thing, and I really wanted to do it. And I steamrolled her, and I did it. Yeah. And it was the wrong call. It was the wrong call. Yeah, it was the wrong call. And she was right. But you know what? She's never once brought it up.
That's dope.
Yeah, she's never once been that way. And so I got a piece of advice from a pastor about it. And he said something to us that was really helpful. He said, if you don't agree, don't move forward. And we've actually stuck with that. So people are like, what happens when it's a 50-50? It's like you keep fucking working. Sorry. You keep working on it.
Yeah.
You know, you keep working on it.